Everything litty, you know that we hot. You need some therapy, go to the doc. Trying to get stronger, go to the joc. Doc and the Joc, talks on the rocks. Where life lessons will be taught, and you can drink in class, this is the spot. So every Tuesday, tune in, grab a glass and invite a friend. This is the Doc and The Joc.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I am the Doc, Dr. Govan.
It's your boy, the Joc, Shawty Parker, back in the building. What's happening?
What's up, Shawty? How you doing?
Hey, just happy to be here for another episode. You know, always trying to get better. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's going to be very informative. You know what I'm saying? I got my mental notepad ready.
Oh, I hope so, because it is a lot of information. So you're right. So the topic is master manipulators, the narcissist, the love bomber, and the gaslighter. So I initially thought I was going to be able to do all of this in 1 hour, but in order to really do it and do it in a way that I feel will be really helpful, I thought it would be better for us to do like a 3-part series.
Okay.
So the idea came. So you know how I
we
feel
about to
about.
go down a rabbit hole, then. This is very deep.
Why you say that?
3 parts. I mean, we generally do something on 1 part. If this has 3, so I'm assuming this rabbit hole is much deeper.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about the narcissist.
Okay.
And then next week it'll be the love bomber, and then the week after that it'll be the gaslighter. So I'm not sure if how deep it goes. My hope is that it does clear up some stuff and educate. It's funny, as I was getting ready for this today, I saw on TikTok somebody was actually talking about narcissism. And, you know, these social media life coaches are like the bane of my existence, because a lot of times they talk about stuff and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And even me, I mean, truth moment, when I was doing it, I actually had to pick up the phone and consult with someone, because it's been a while since I actually looked at this. Like the pure definition of stuff. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't giving out any misinformation.
We're talking about, you said the narcissist?
Mm-hmm. The narcissist.
So just to be clear that I'm somewhat on the same page. Generally, we're talking about someone who has a mindset of being superior, right?
So you started off saying someone who, wait, say it again. You said someone who is,
well, someone who
thinks that they're superior than everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, that's what it boils down to. I'm sure there may be some more, but at the end of the day, still boil down to they thinking they better than others. People are inferior to their way of thinking.
On the surface, that's how it looks, right?
Okay.
Which makes it look like there are a whole lot of narcissists walking around, right? Because I would argue that a lot of us have traits of a narcissist, especially athletes, because when you step on the court or the field or wherever you play, on some level, you have to believe that you're going to beat your opponent. You have to believe that you are the best one out here, or else, things might not end well, right? So there are some traits that are really, really productive. But what I will tell you is it actually does not have anything to do with how big your self-esteem is or how small your insecurities or large your insecurities are. Narcissism, more so than anything, it's about someone's hunger or desire to be admired, appreciated, the center of attention. They want you to really treat them special, as if they are larger than life. So that's different than just someone who has high self-esteem, or someone who we might consider cocky or overconfident.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. I mean, because I read the definition. I get what you're saying. I mean, I think you definitely delved a little bit more into it. Personal qualities including thinking very highly of oneself, needing admiration, believing others are inferior, and lacking empathy for others. So that's one thing that we left out was
it's interesting because they want you to admire them. So on the one hand, they do want you to admire them. They do want you to adore them, and they want you to praise them. But then on the other hand, they don't care how their behavior really makes you feel. So let me make that clear, right? I think the biggest thing that I would want, before we start getting into like examples and story time and everything, I really want people to think about it from the standpoint of someone who has this grandiose sense of importance, right? Someone who thinks that they are way more important than maybe they really are in a given situation, versus someone who is just really, really overconfident. Because I hear a lot of times people talk about, this individual thinks the world of themselves. And in isolation, what's wrong with thinking the world of yourself? Like, what's wrong with being confident? Like, I think we all need that, depending on, what you do for a living. I mean, I don't think any of my patients would want me to come in the room second guessing myself. I think every last one of my patients want me to come in knowing that I know what I know, and that I'm great at what I do. So on some level, it's not just about, how confident or how great your self-esteem is. It's you thinking that you are bigger than what you really are, if that makes sense.
What you had gave on the definition of narcissist was kind of still encompasses to me about being, I guess, the basically having a superiority complex. But it was just one of the things out of all the things you said from the definition that I was reading, the empathy theme hadn't been touched on. But as you stated, you hadn't finished. So now I know that you had that part of the puzzle. We good. I think I have the understanding of it now.
I think it's a very vital part, but I don't know. I would say any one thing is more important. I think they all kind of are necessary in order to consider somebody a narcissist. And the reason I say that is because I hear that term used so much these days, especially as relationships are ending, or if the relationship doesn't go the way they wanted it to. People are so quick these days to call somebody a narcissist. If this person, I feel like anytime this person does something that actually may be in the betterment for themselves and maybe not someone else, now they're a narcissist, because they're possibly doing what's best for them, which doesn't necessarily line up with, what someone else might want you to do. So I don't want it to come off like, okay, this is just about lacking empathy, because there's a lot of other things that falls under more than.
Right. So let me ask you a question, just for clarity.
Mhm.
So like most things, you can never just be labeled one thing. Characteristics, like a lot of things, transcends levels. They always kind of bleed over into other things. But part of being a narcissist, I'm just asking, wouldn't it be like something that you just do, like one thing would stick out more than another that would make you a narcissist? Because what I'm saying is we all have narcissistic characteristics, but it's something that we do more of than another of those characteristics that makes us a narcissist, right?
Not quite. So what I would say, and I think what you're trying to get at is, when we look for, is this person, does this person display narcissistic traits, versus is this person, does this person actually meet the criteria to be considered a narcissist? We look for patterns of behavior. I know last week I said that. I think a lot of times what people have the tendency to do is, you see one thing that this person is doing, and then that one thing becomes enough to say, okay, yep, that's it, they're a narcissist. And that doesn't work, right? We literally look for patterns of behavior, where and we also look for patterns and behavior in multiple settings, because whether people realize it or not, sometimes how someone may act at work may be different than how they act at home, may be different than how they act in a social setting. But you talk about personality traits, most times they actually cross over into multiple settings, right? So if someone is really, really struggling, if someone is really a narcissist, you would see that same type of behavior at work, you'd see it at home, you'd see it at church, you see it wherever, right? As opposed to
So which
how. Mhm.
I don't know. That's what I'm just trying to so is it the traits, the narcissistic traits in the definition is a predicts these behaviors? Like, I'm just trying to find out what makes a narcissist a narcissist. Is it a combination of all these traits, which a lot of us have? Like, you saying it's about behavior. So what is it about the behavior? Is it the traits that, you know what I'm saying, predicts these behaviors? Like, what are the behaviors of a narcissist? Can you give me a narcissist and that narcissistic behavior?
I would say if you think of some of the more quote unquote famous serial killers, John Wayne Gacy, he would be considered a narcissist.
So what was his behavior that made him narcissistic other than the killing? Unless you're saying that's what made him a narcissist.
The killing isn't necessarily what made him a narcissist, right? I mean, because that's
that's what I'm saying. So
not a criteria. But if you know anything about John Wayne Gacy, it was the fact that he was really charismatic. You know, when you first meet someone, they do come off really charismatic. They come off really confident. You know, they actually people are kind of drawn to them because they initially display traits that most of us would be drawn to, right? But one of the things about serial killers is they don't care about you at all. It's all about them, right? So there was beyond lack of empathy, right? He did not care about how anybody was going to feel. He was very self-centered. He was not just self-centered, but it was like, I need to be the center of attention. I'm doing things. I need to be admired. I need to be appreciated. You know, now him being a serial killer, the killing part would be additional, something else that wouldn't necessarily fall under narcissism. But I would say not all narcissists are serial killers, but I would say all serial killers are narcissists. But as we keep going, maybe the more I talk about it, maybe it'll start making a little bit more sense. Because I'm still trying to understand, like, what part you need more clarity around. Is it just that the fact that you're kind of stuck with the traits, or what is it?
No, I was just asking if, we're talking about a narcissist. I was just asking of a narcissist. And because of the definition, the way the definition reads, we all have narcissistic characteristics.
Right.
So for me, we all could be narcissists in a form or fashion. So I was asking you, well, I'm just saying, we have the characteristics. So that's what I'm getting at. Is it the characteristics that make you a narcissist? No, because that's what I was thinking. You said you look for a pattern of behavior. So that's why I was asking you, could you give me a narcissist and explain what is that particular behavior that makes them a narcissist? Because what I know of a narcissist was by definition. So now I'm looking for behavior. That's the distinction I was trying to get you to explain to me.
And what I would say is, most times when people look up the definition, if you just go to Google, I'm pretty sure it's going to give you the traits or the behaviors. And again, with mental health, with any of these things that we talk about, it is way more involved than just a checklist. It really is, because if that was the case, then you're right. All of us would be narcissists, and it just doesn't work like that. Actually, the research shows that only 1% of the population actually would reach the level of being, having narcissistic personality disorder. It's really rare.
Now that's interesting.
But we have made it common because we go to Google, we look at the checklist, we say, yep, okay, you're a narcissist. And it just doesn't translate like that. It's like with mental health, it's very similar to, like, physical health, right? Just because you have symptoms of something doesn't necessarily mean you have the diagnosis, right? So a lot of times.
Doc, what I'm saying is, you have something that gives you the diagnosis, right? It's something that stands out, or a combination of some things that stand out that gives you a diagnosis, right?
Right.
So I'm asking, what gives you the diagnosis of a narcissist, whether it be the definition or whether it be behaviors? I just need or can you, if you can, give me an example of a person, whether it be a name or not, and whether their behaviors or characteristics that say, hey, by definition or by whatever you want to call it, he or she is a narcissist.
So I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay.
But what I will be able to do
I don't know
is
how I'm supposed to know what a narcissist is. I don't know how I'm supposed to know this.
what I will be able to do is I'll give you examples of behavior
Okay.
and signs that people can look for that may point them in the direction that they're, and I hate to say that will say that this person is a narcissist, because I'm a strong believer that if it's not a trained, licensed professional, I don't even want people out here trying to diagnose. But
So
what
you
I
can
do
only be
want,
given that by a doctor, just real talk, like only a
yes,
doctor can get. Oh, okay. And people
yes.
just use it very
They
loosely, like you
do.
said. I got you.
And so maybe that explains why I'm a little tight-lipped,
I
right?
see what you now. That one,
Because
but I don't know, doctor.
yeah.
I gotta pull. It's like pulling teeth. But now I get what I kind of feel what you're saying now in
Well,
terms of just of who you are and what you do. You because I was really trying to I really don't know at this point because I told you my definition of it, what I thought it was. So
so
I'm
my
just trying to
hope
find.
was, and so I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was getting frustrated, like, what in the world's the disconnect here? Yet, just through you talking, I realized that because I am so in our field, in a lot of fields, people say you're the gatekeeper, right? That means that our field is somewhat protected, and I think we feel even more protective because you have so many people these days out here saying things that is just incorrect, right? And one of the things that you'll learn as you get to know me better is I really hate giving people checklist of items to say this is
Mhm.
this is how you tell if this person is this or that. I hate that, because nothing in our field is black or white.
Right.
It's really more nuanced than that. Just like
Complicated.
it's not complicated. It's just more nuanced, right? So it's not just like I said. Most people, initially they think somebody who thinks they're superior. When really,
Mhm.
it's not just about thinking you're superior. It's really more so feeling like you want to be adored and admired, and you want to be the center of attention, and people should be almost kissing your feet and kissing your ass, and you are larger than life, right? That's more than just thinking that you're better than somebody, because all of us think that on some level, whether you say it out loud or you don't.
Well, we all
We
think everything you just said. We all think on some level. Everybody
well,
wants to
I
be
don't know.
admired. A lot of people, everybody wants to be. I mean, you might not seek it, but you don't. It's not a bad thing to be admired. Everybody wants to be. You'd rather be admired than not, for the most part.
I think that there is a difference between being flattered because someone admires you, and 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 your behavior lending itself to
Mm-hmm. That's what
make
you're saying.
somebody, like, your whole goal and objective is that I deserve praise from you and I deserve admiration. And even bigger than that, when you don't give me that, then there's a problem. And that's the part we haven't gotten to. What happens when a narcissist doesn't get what it is that they feel they deserve? Because that's really where the problem comes, right?
So have we established though for the? So that's what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to be a hard a-hole or anything, but before we even move to the next point, that was my whole point of asking the question I asked. Have we established, as far as we're going to establish, what a narcissist is? Because we're going to move to another point about what you just stated, and I'm still not quite sure of what a narcissist is. I
So
mean,
this is
I
what I
have
want
an
to
idea.
say. A narcissist is a person who, seeks out control, admiration, praise. They want to be the center of attention. They feel like they are larger than life, and they feel like you should treat them as such. They To even go further than that, they would go through great lengths to make sure that those things happen, even those things including being manipulative, or being, exploiting others, or
And
being,
that's what you mean by the behaviors.
right.
Gotcha.
So emotionally abusive, maybe talking down to you, or what ridiculing you I think, and some things can evolve to physical abuse, but it doesn't always, right? Because the goal for them, again, is to have the utmost control over the situation, and for that person or those people to always admire and praise them, for them for example, I had a client who she was married to this guy who actually was a really, really good athlete, right? Went to college, but there was some things that happened in life that caused him to not be able to continue. But he went to college on a basketball scholarship, right? But he never got to finish, and so he's really, really knowledgeable in that area. He doesn't coach, but he knows his stuff. Now the problem with it is that they have sons, and he's always arguing with the coaches, the refs, and anybody and everybody about what should or shouldn't happen. And so recently they were at basketball training where they were at this college where they were doing some training, and basically everything that was being said by the trainers was something that he had said before. And so the whole time he sat in the stands and he was laughing really loudly, and every other sentence he was like, that's some shit I said. See, that's what I told y'all. See, don't nobody want to listen to me, but I said the same thing. But just all, like, every other sentence making it known that he knows just as much as these trainers know, right? And so they were both in my office, and she was saying that we never say that he doesn't know it. And I said, he wasn't saying all those things because you guys don't say he doesn't know it. He was saying all those things because you guys don't give him enough praise for knowing it. So there's a difference between someone just kind of flexing their muscles and saying, okay, I know this, versus someone being very adamant that everybody in the room should listen to him, that he knows, everything, and that you guys should be kissing my ass because I know everything. So there's a difference between just people. I might flex my muscles every now and again about my intelligence, but in no way am I going to sit in a room and laugh at a speaker every other sentence because it's something that I would have said. That it's totally different, right? And when a narcissist doesn't get the attention, the admiration, the praise that they deserve, then they will result to things like being manipulative. They will result to things like being mentally and verbally abusive, right? So, for example, one of the signs, if you just really are looking for a checklist, or you want to know, okay, so how can I differentiate, right? One of the things that you'll see a narcissist do is your needs are met either by silence or by lip service. And so what that means is, let's say I need help, I need help with the groceries. And a narcissist won't even acknowledge, either they're not going to acknowledge that I even said it, or they'll say, okay, I'll be there, and never come, right? So it's kind of like, I guess it would fall under in the family of, on some level, ignoring you, right? They will give you the silent treatment because because you made them mad, or you did something to them that they didn't like, or that they didn't feel you should have done. And so instead of being emotionally mature about it and having a conversation so that you guys could talk it out and see how this can not happen again, a narcissist is more likely just to give you the silent treatment and not talk to you, and not even tell you why they're not talking to you, right? And for however long, until I guess they get over it. So they, let's see. You have any questions about that? Because I know I said a lot, and I don't want to feel like I am just lecturing.
No, I'm learning. Yeah, I'm listening. I'm learning. It's very very interesting. Um, I'm
Interesting in
just
what way?
I'm just of the mindset is, a lot of these things that you're saying, and you use the word interchangeable. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just see so much of this stuff as being so interchangeable in terms of the characteristic and personalities that people happen. I'm just trying to really narrow down, with this narcissistic, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to put it in a box, and maybe it's a box I can't put it into. So I'm
Help
still
me.
that's why I'm listening so much, because I'm really
Excuse me.
trying to, I'm just trying to put it in a box. And once again, maybe I can't fit it into a box. But
Help me.
I
Help me
want you to
understand that
finish.
statement. Well, help me understand. You said that you're trying to. Like, I wasn't sure I understood what you were saying. Like, you were trying to. You said you were trying to have a better understanding of how this is different. I mean, what
Yeah,
was it
because
that you were
I
trying?
know it's difficult, and you explain with the narcissist. Like when I asked you the question, you read off a definition to me, and you read
Mhm.
off some things that around about behaviors that can be considered as a can be, I guess, can be where it can be considered narc. I don't got to say it so much. I'm getting tongue tied. I can't even say the word no more. But
Narcissistic.
yes, and I'm just like, I still like, for me in general, I haven't heard anything that just sticks out in a pattern like that's been to make me say that person is a narcissist. Like what I'm hearing, like people do this every day, all the time. I just haven't heard anything that has stuck out to me yet. That's why I'm listening so much and trying to process.
So I'm glad you said that, because I, even when I was preparing for this, one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that I hammered home is that, again, we all may see ourselves on some level in some of the symptoms, the traits, and even some of the behaviors, right? One thing I would love for us to do is not explain that away like everybody does it. Because honestly, if you see yourself doing any of these 10 things I'm about to name, then I would say that that's something that you need to really write down and work on, because it's not healthy. It's not, giving somebody the silent treatment, that's, it's not healthy, right? Especially giving them the silent treatment because they made you mad. Like, that sounds like you're throwing a temper tantrum, right? Like, that's not healthy. It's not healthy.
People throw temper tantrums. I'm
And
sure,
again,
especially
in
like people with
relationship,
kids. I'm sure, like, think about it. I'm sure some, even like not even kids. Sometimes I'm using kids as an example. Sometimes kids do shit that you, guess what? You at that second you just ain't gonna. You can this is what parents would say. Just get out of my face. Don't say nothing right now. Just leave. Go in your room to get. I mean, people throw. I mean,
so that actually is different, right? I What I would say is, there's a difference between someone, something happened, some type of exchange happens, and you just need a minute. You let me collect myself, because if I say something right now, it ain't gonna come out right, and it probably ain't gonna end well, right? Now, the fact that you, in the scenario you gave, the parent actually tells the child, like, get out, go in your room, get out my face, right? that's that's not necessarily the silent treatment, right? Because I'm
so
telling you,
that's
I'm
why I ask for examples, Doc. Because
right.
when
So
you say open and close, I don't want to say open and close things like that. It's just when you say it the way you said it. Now, what you just said gave a whole lot more context. So that's why when you say things, that's why, matter of fact, I don't know if you remember the last episode. For me, and I know you're not speaking to me personally, we're speaking to the masses. But for me, I need example things that I can relate to for me to understand it. Because if you just saying the silent treatment, that can mean, to like I just said, if you say go, I don't want to. That's the silent treatment. But what you just explained, you gave a lot more context. So that's why
right,
it's good to give examples for me to
right.
understand it.
And again, I like I said last week, I've been doing this for 17 years. So if I skate over something, then reel me back, because it's not because I just, I'm intentionally doing it. It's because I've said it and done it so much, I don't realize that maybe I have to take a step back and break it down.
I'm simple stupid. I need
But
all
but
the
it's not just
examples.
that. It's just,
No,
but
I'm being facetious, but I'm
yeah.
saying, but I would, yeah, I would like, for me, I would like to, get these examples, because I think examples will help people under a lot more people understand it, as opposed to just being words and definitions. In my
Okay.
opinion,
So
examples are more.
right. Right. So I actually said, example 1 and 2 actually sounds similar, right?
Okay.
One I said was the silent treatment. The other one I said was that they kind of respond to you with silence, right? So one would be like, I come in, I just came from the grocery store, and I say, hey, I need help with the grocery. It's crickets. Nothing gets said. Or the person says, all right, I'll be there. It never comes, right?
Okay.
Versus the silent treatment could be that when we, wake up in the morning, you're not saying anything, you're not saying good morning, you're not saying see you later, you don't talk throughout the day, you come home, you don't say hello, you don't, like, literally the silent treatment. There
Right.
is no I need a moment, there is no get out, until further notice. There's literally just something was done, and most times the other person doesn't even know what it was that was done, right?
That
But
100% cleared that up for me.
okay, so
Like
yeah,
that's what I did.
yeah.
Thank you.
So another example would be, you get payback or punishment for doing something that they didn't like, right?
Mhm.
So here's so what they call a narcissistic injury, which was really interesting. I'll be honest, I haven't ever.
Injury.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
never heard of it. I actually
Yeah,
called
me
a
either.
colleague and asked, have you ever heard of a narcissistic injury? And we
Interesting.
laughed about it, right? So so how the best way I could explain it, a narcissistic injury would be that this individual felt a way about something that was said or done to them that maybe the general population would say, yeah, okay, but it wasn't that deep, right? But now want to punish you for it, right? And so punishing you for it could be, I'm going to withdraw something, like either I'm not going to come around that much, or I'm not going to talk to you that much, or I'm going to, I mean, I've known people to, withdraw sex, right? So, oh no, I'm not having sex, just they, in some way, shape, or fashion, the individual is now punishing you or paying you back for doing something that they perceived as something that they felt a way about,
Yeah, it
right?
cut them deep, obviously.
Whereas with and the reason why that's problematic is that in most relationships, especially when you talk about more mature adult relationships, people get hurt for different reasons. I'm not the gatekeeper of what makes people, feel a way. Like, I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't feel a way about, right? I think that the mature individual, though, will actually have a conversation with their significant other or whomever, and and they can kind of talk you through and try to come up with ways for it to not happen again, as opposed to, oh, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna make sure you don't do this again, because I'm gonna punish you, like this person is your child, and now I gotta do something. You hurt me, so now I gotta hurt you, type situation. That sounds,
Eye for an eye.
it really starts to sound elementary. Like, it really does, because when you
I,
think about relationships and how things work, though, it doesn't translate to healthy at all,
no, I'm
because
just being playing devil's advocate here. I
mhm,
noticed you say the person. It's funny that the person you say the person you're gonna get back at the person that hurt you, but the person who's getting back is called the narcissist because he was hurt by somebody else, but the person who
no, no,
did
no,
that.
no.
I'm just saying, just from hearing that, that's kind of part of what I heard. Cause you said I'm a get back. That's why I say eye for an eye. I'm gonna get back at you for getting at me. I'm gonna punish you for something you did that I didn't like.
So, for example, right, it could be
See,
something
there you
like,
go. That's why you need to get the examples.
so I'll try to use myself. It's, so I think that a lot of my friends would say that sometimes it's difficult to support me, right? Because I'm a very independent individual, and I'm very unconventional, or what support looks like for me is really unconventional, right? And so I would say, me and my sister-in-law have had, several interactions where in her effort to try to comfort or support, it did nothing but piss me off more, right? Now, a narcissistic injury would be one where she said or did something that pissed me off. But I'm not going to tell her, hey, I didn't like that, and give her an opportunity to figure out what she did and try to rectify it or make sure that she doesn't do it again. She pissed me off, so now I ain't gonna answer her calls. Now if she asks me to pick up my nieces, I'm gonna be busy. Since if that's how she thinks that she's gonna support me, that ain't supportive. So now I'm not gonna help her. I ain't gonna support her. And how long that lasts, who knows? Until I feel better, or maybe it just lasts forever. So like that's an example of a narcissistic injury where now I'm paying her back for something that, it did hurt my feelings, but in a more mature relationship, I would have been able to come to her and say, hey, that's not really helpful. And then she would say, okay, well, like sometimes I don't know how to help you. Like what would be helpful for you? So we can have a more mature exchange. So the next time she's in a situation to support me, she'll know how to do it. That's more of a mature exchange as opposed to me just getting in my feelings because she did something that hurt me. And now I'm going to show her how much it hurt by paying her back. And paying her back could mean that I'm not doing something for her, or I'm not going to answer her calls, or I ain't going to help her when she needs help, or whatever it is. So that's toxic. That is very toxic. And whether to me, in isolation, none of these events, suggest that somebody is a narcissist, right? So like just
and
because
that's what I was getting
what
at,
I
because
will
I'm
say,
still saying I don't see how that makes somebody a narcissist, but it's a characteristic of narcissism.
Right. So
It's amazing how I
understand
just
this.
spit that out and couldn't
So
do it 10 seconds ago.
so that's what I want people to understand. One, Shawty, I'm not trying to help you better diagnose people. So you may never understand what it takes to be considered a narcissist, because even in my field, that's something I would consult. And I've been doing this for 17 years. But before I give somebody that label, one, I probably would have worked with them for several weeks. Two, I've probably consulted with a couple of colleagues, because to give someone such a severe diagnosis is not something I take lightly. Like that's something that, so if you walk away today still feeling like you don't know how to diagnose that, then I did my job, because I'm not trying to teach you.
I'm saying I actually feel better now, because to your point, what I'm saying is people use the word so loosely and throw it around. Like it's almost like you can just be like, oh, he's a narcissist because
everybody's a narcissist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
if you look
I never thought about it, as deeply as we're talking about it now. So just to be totally honest with you, that's why I'm so inquisitive about it, and I'm doing so much listening and trying to give a little bit of pushback, because I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't know if I've ever used the term myself towards someone, but I could probably see someone and be like, well, he or she is probably a narcissist based off of what I've seen. I guess the behaviors you were saying, but still to that point, they may not even be close to it, because I really I don't really know what it is. Not to put you on the spot again, like I was not necessarily trying to, but what I'm getting at is like you kind of going back to what I was kind of trying to ask earlier. Like there are certain things that I know you say is behavior, and if you can't talk about it now, we might have to talk about it off camera. But it's almost like there are certain things that you are doing that's gonna give you that diagnosis. And matter of fact, I won't even ask no more, because you said
this is what I want you to hear, and this is what I want anybody who's watching to hear. There is a term that we use, pervasive, right?
Okay.
A pervasive pattern of behavior. So anytime we're looking for, specifically like narcissistic or borderline or any type of personality type stuff, one of the hallmark things we're looking for is a pervasive pattern of
And what you
behavior.
mean by
Pervasive. It
yeah,
means that it is consistent,
right.
and it's what's the word I'm looking for? And you'll see it in multiple areas of their life. So how
Gotcha.
this individual is at home, is how they are at work, is how they are at church, is how they are in their fraternity, sorority, like pervasive. Like this
Gotcha.
person is, because sometimes how you are at work, like for example, once upon a lifetime, I was in a male dominated environment. So the energy that I had to bring every day at work didn't match the energy that you would see me,
Right.
if you just saw me in my personal life. But because of the environment I was in, then it brought out a different type of energy, right? So that's different than if someone is like this at home.
Yeah.
And when we say like
You don't
this,
know how to shift gears. You're always in the same gear for the most part.
it's not even about knowing how. It's about that's who you are. Like there is
Right.
no there is no shift gears. This is who I am. And part of, when you think about a narcissist, I want to encourage everybody to think about it from the standpoint of it being relational, right? This is how this individual relates to people in a very unhealthy, toxic manner, right? All for the purpose of trying to control situations the way they feel comfortable controlling it, right? And trying to dominate, the space, trying to, all again, this individual has to be the center of attention. This person, you have to kiss their ass. They have to be in control, right? And then they will do anything it takes in order for those things to happen. So does that clear it up at all, just a little bit?
Yeah. Once again, like I say, I'm just different. It's not for me to totally understand. Like I said, I think it's to a point where right now I shouldn't totally understand them because it's something that a professional should be able to diagnose. Once again, I'm just a little bit simpler. I be trying to put things in a box so that I can understand, and I just don't truly think. I don't use the term, but I have become one of those people that I hear it thrown around very loosely and never truly have an understanding of it, and I truly don't now, not to where I want to be able to use the term. You know what I'm saying? So
What I would
I think
suggest
that's
to
okay right
people,
now.
I think that in a lot of people's attempt to try to make sense out of things, right? Like you're trying to make sense out of it. You like our own curiosity, anxiety, thought, whatever. It feels better when 1 + 1 is 2. Like we can make sense out of it, and so I think that that's part of the reason why we hear so frequently this term being thrown out, because again, I'm trying to make sense of what just happened to me in this relationship that I thought was going to go one way but ended up not going in the way that I wanted it to go. Now the danger with that is that sometimes it lets people off the hook from having to look at themselves and say, okay, like what part of the relationship downfall did I play? Right? It's easy to say, oh, I was dating a narcissist and that was the problem, right? As opposed to sometimes, having to do a deeper dive. So I think that we see a lot of that. And I think that because that drives attention, then you see a lot of these social media life coaches trying to get clicks and likes. And so now everybody's talking about it, right? Because it drives attention and then it drives clicks and likes. But in the middle of all of that, there's a lot of misinformation.
Right.
I don't know that I don't, my point tonight is not for me to get you guys to the point of being clinicians and being able to sit with somebody and
Right.
diagnose them. My point tonight is for you to understand that when you're engaging with people and they're exhibiting certain behaviors that you don't like, then that's a telltale sign. Whether you know what it is or not, whether you know whether you know if this falls under being a narcissist or a jackass, it doesn't matter, right? But these are some things that are unhealthy. And to me, it's far too many times where people say, well, everybody does it. Oh, everybody does that. That doesn't make it healthy. It really doesn't. And part of what I hope the people get out of our podcast is that we really try to evolve to be better versions of ourselves, and sitting and doubling down on, well, everybody does it. I don't know how we evolve, right? So if you do in fact see yourself or your significant other or your friends engaging in these type of behaviors, I think we have to try to figure out how we have conversations about doing better, because like it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to give somebody the silent treatment. It's not acceptable to feel like, who are you to decide whether or not somebody gets punished? Like, how silly does that sound, right? But what I will say is,
let me ask you this, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not posing this to you. I'm just posing it. But who would you be to say how somebody should feel?
I didn't, but notice what
no,
I
that's
didn't
I say I
right.
didn't. I'm not posing
no,
it
no,
to
no. I'm
you.
saying
I'm just responding to the question.
And my thing is, I am not in a position to tell anybody how they feel, right? I am challenging what people do with those feelings, right? Because again, I can't tell anyone what should or should not hurt you. I can't tell anybody what should and should not disappoint you, what should and should not anger you. That is not my position to tell you that. What I will say is that even if you are in fact hurt by this person or disappointed by this person or angered by this person, that there is a healthier way to deal with those feelings. There's a healthier way to deal with that, that interaction. And giving somebody the silent treatment or thinking that you are a parent and you're going to, punish them, that's not a healthy way of dealing with it. It's actually, it falls under all of these things, Shawty, fall under the category of emotional abuse. And see, I was really hesitant about saying that because I feel like I'm about to blow people's mind. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard for me to have this conversation because it's like you can't really go into, like, I want to know what's going on. It's like you dancing around the subject, and I just can't really. I mean, I get it, but I need to know. Like, you're doing too much dancing for me.
So here we go. Let's put it on the table. Emotional abuse. The interesting thing about that is most people readily identify physical abuse, right? Like, if you slap me, then that there is not a whole lot of debate with what that is, right? And most times, if you start dating someone and in the first 72 hours they hit you, like, nah, I'm good, right? Like, we're not gonna keep going. So physical abuse actually doesn't start off physical. It starts off emotional and psychological and mental, right? It starts off really subtly, like things where you're like, that was kind of weird, like, and the first time somebody does it, you're like, okay, but you don't really think anything about it.
Maybe like a push or something, maybe just like a, I don't know, something subtle, but just kind of like something more than would be out of the norm for sure.
For example, self-disclosure. So years ago, let me put that out there. Years ago, because I don't want nobody to be watching this podcast and try to sue me because they think I'm talking about them. But years ago, I dated someone, and every time
that part out. But
every time this individual felt away, then he would withdraw sex.
You're gonna cut it off from yourself? Okay. I mean, women do that enough themselves, but that's a different story.
I mean, it was a new one. I had never seen it before, and I ain't seen it since. But that was a new one on me. So again, especially with it being something like, I'm a therapist. I would have never connected that to that, and so through further conversation, this individual would say stuff like, well, when we're arguing, I just don't feel, inclined and all this kind of stuff, right? So initially I kind of took it as
inclined for what we're talking.
Like, I just don't feel like I want to be sexually intimate, right? So me being a therapist and being overly understanding, everybody has their own way of processing things, right? I'm like, okay, cool. But After being with this individual for like 6, 7 months, and that happened in more than literally 8 times in that 6, 7 months, I was like, whoa, right?
What's going on?
So yeah, so what it does then psychologically, right, is no matter how confident I am, now I'm starting to question like what the hell you on? Because if we ain't doing it, then
Right.
what are you on? So
Right.
now what it has just done is it has just introduced a whole different type of energy into the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mental part. So now I'm trying to check myself as a woman because again, if I'm in a relationship with this individual, I want to make sure that I'm meeting his needs. And if he doesn't desire me, now I'm trying to figure out like what's wrong
Doc,
with me.
now you know I gotta ask you this, and I already
What's
know
up?
what the answer gonna be, but I'm gonna ask you. Now,
What?
had you created an emotional safe space for him to be able to come talk to you?
Listen, I will tell
Uh
you
oh, uh oh.
that
See
what I
that what
learned
happened when
from
you
that.
make me smarter. See, you shouldn't be making me smarter.
What I learned from that situation is I have the tendency to give people too much the benefit of the doubt because I do consider feelings and emotions and even my colleagues are like, Doc, you give people way way too much, right?
So was he a narcissist, or he just showed narcissistic behavior?
Um,
Being
woo,
totally
child,
unbiased now. Being
because
totally
if
unbiased. Being totally
oh,
unbiased. I know you got a little personal, but just being totally
no, because
unbiased.
I'm like, if this person watches it, let me see. Totally
That's what I'm saying. Be
unbiased.
totally unbiased.
I would say his pinky toe is right there on that line of being able to get that diagnosis. Like
Okay.
you almost could draw SSI almost. Like you almost right there. Now just a couple more things and sir, you know, and
Gotcha.
that's even me being totally objective and being, years removed from the situation, but also knowing other folks that he's dated and having similar issues, right? Again, patterns of behavior. You want to
Right.
look at patterns of behavior, right? So if certain things were just happening in isolation, then I would say that those would be traits. But when you start seeing patterns of behavior, when I look at how he interacted with other people, I told someone, I said, when you look at an individual and every 6 months, they fall out with their friends. Like you want to take a look at that. You want to take a look at somebody who has a hard time, holding on to friendships or whatever, right? Because again, those are patterns of behavior that are pervasive, not just in this romantic relationship, but you got issues with your homeboys, you got issues with your
Self-sabotage.
coworkers, you got issues with the neighbors, like like everywhere you go, there's some type of issue that arises, right? So then you're like, now you're looking at, okay, this is more than just traits. This is more than just symptoms. Like this is problematic because it is now kind of, encompassing multiple areas of this individual's life. Does that make sense? As opposed to sometimes people bring out the worst in us, right? I'm sure you've heard that. Like sometimes you're with someone who, for whatever reason, they just bring out the worst in you. So for me, I think that I would be remiss to look at that person's situation and say, oh, you're a narcissist when you hadn't had these behaviors before this person and you don't have them in any other area of your life, but there's something about your interaction with this person that causes you to be the worst versions of yourself, which is why it's so dangerous just to give checklists or just for me to tell you, okay, it's this and this, because it's so much more nuanced than just that. It could be so many reasons why somebody is reacting or behaving the way they are. It could be that they're a narcissist, or it could just be some other stuff. So I don't know how I'm saying there's no way to give you a shortcut version of how to diagnose. And that's just the truth. We're trained to rule out stuff. We're trained to look for other reasons why this is happening before we say it's definitely this. We want to say, okay, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, before we say it's this. Whereas today's society, y'all want to immediately say it's this, is this? Oh yeah, because Google, WebMD said 1, 2, 3, so that's what it is, and that's not always the case. But what I want
Fair
you to
enough.
hear more than anything is there are certain behaviors that are unhealthy, regardless of whether or not they fall under any type of title or diagnosis or label. It's just unhealthy. And I think far too many times I see people staying in situations where it's really toxic. And part of that, Shawty, is because they think that they can actually change that individual, right? Or they think
Mhm.
that, it's going to get better. Or they the relationship started out one way, right?
But
And
isn't
now,
that what the narcissist needs? He needs someone to feed that pattern of behavior. If not, he's gonna move to someone else because they're not gonna be with the shit. So he
right.
needs someone that he can feed, almost like a parasite. You know what I mean?
So a narcissist has a bottomless pit, right? So this person will never really truly be filled. It'll never be enough, right? You'll never be able to say or do or think enough, right? Because just as soon as you think you got it, it'll be something else that you're not
They
doing.
move the goalposts.
Yep. And so that's another telltale sign where you start feeling like no matter what you do, it's just never good enough. And you're literally giving everything you got. And it's never good enough. Matter of fact, this individual starts to blame you for everything. Well, it's your fault that I cheated on you, because you wasn't giving me the time that I wanted, or you wasn't, you didn't put on a few pounds, or you wasn't giving me the kind of sex I wanted. Like, it's just no matter what it is, it's always your fault, and nothing you do will ever be enough for that individual. So what I want people to remember, because I could go for hours about symptoms and traits like most people probably want me to, but I would tell you it's not going to help. What I will say is when you find yourself feeling, first of all, self-awareness. Shawty, I talk about that ad nauseum, right? Like, people are probably tired of hearing me talk about self-awareness. It's so important though, because what also comes with self-awareness is realizing when something is different about you. When I'm in a situation and I am now reacting in a way that is not normally how I would react, and I'm starting to feel, different about things, and that's just not, that's not me. My mood has shifted. I'm more irritable, whatever it is, you start to see that you are no longer yourself. You look in the mirror and you're not even sure who that is. That's a problem, Um, so I think the first step that I would tell people is that it's very, very important before you even consider being in any type of relationship. I think it's very important for you to make sure that you have a healthy sense of self awareness, because a lot of that,
Tough to do. They come with time
it does. It
and
comes with,
experience.
and it comes with a lot of patience
Hmm.
and nerve, because it takes a lot of courage to sit with yourself and really own the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And,
And,
and
and and not to change the subject, but a lot of people become self-aware due to I don't want to use the word trauma, but due to some mishaps in life. And normally
trauma,
people become
traumatic
self-aware
situations.
when they can use those weaknesses and turn them into strengths to help other people. That's when you know you truly have become self-aware, because it's no longer a weakness. And that's hard for a lot of people to develop and get to that point in their lives.
And I would say this. I think for me, I don't necessarily look at it from the standpoint of a weakness. I would say that we all have limitations, right? I think that, no, like, I can't think of a
Tomato,
time.
tomato.
I can't think of a time in life where anyone will ever be at a point where you don't have something that you need to work on, or something that, or whatever. I think that what's most important is for you to be honest with yourself about the fact that that is still an area that I'm working on, right? So if and when someone actually points it out, your response isn't defensive, right? It's, you know what? I know. I'm still working on that, right? As opposed to someone point something not out, and now all of a sudden you guys are about to go have a back and forth about it, because that's still not something that you have really been comfortable with, right? Because there's some things about ourselves, whether we like it or not, that they're not the best, right? But self-awareness means that I am aware of the things that I do really, really well. I'm aware of the things that I am working on. I'm aware of the things that I don't do well that I ain't gonna work on. Like, I'm aware of all of those things, because once I'm in a much better position to interact, to engage, to relate with other people.
All right. I mean, I'm listening. I agree with you. I mean,
I was gonna say, I'm just waiting. Like, so has there been any clarity being brought to you at all? A little bit.
Yeah, the clarity is misunderstanding, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, you said it yourself. You're not here to give anybody the education to be able to diagnose someone as a narcissist. So, I mean, that says it in itself. So, I mean, to be unclear is my clarity. Knowing what I thought a narcissist was is truly unfair to myself and anybody who I have called, which I don't throw terms and things like that loosely anyway. But to even just use it loosely or to say something like that would be a disservice not only to myself and to that person. So this area of not being clear is actually a good thing in my opinion, because I definitely need to dig and dive a little bit deeper into that. And I'm sure I will have some conversations with you at some point in time off camera about it, because it's definitely intriguing. So
Yeah,
with me
I'm glad
answering
you.
it like that is not a bad thing. Trust me. It's
No,
not.
actually, I'm glad you answered it like that, because one of the things I try to tell people is, one, we have to learn how to be comfortable with discomfort, right? And that is the hardest thing, because no one wants to be uncomfortable, and we fight discomfort like people fight the plague, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, in life there are going to be things that are just uncomfortable. People, a lot of times, we don't like ambiguity. We want things to be, 1 + 1 is 2. I don't want a calculus problem. I want something that I can actually tangibly figure out. And sometimes in life it's not always just that simple, right? I think bigger than that, I really want to let you guys off the hook from feeling like you have to diagnose. Like, that's my job. If you're in question, hit me up. I welcome those type of challenges, right? I get up for that stuff. Like, a lot of people think that's weird, but that's kind of what makes me go. Like, I love studying human behavior and all that kind of stuff. So if you're in doubt about interacting with someone, or even if you see some things in yourself that I don't really want to say on, but maybe let me hit Dr. G up and kind of have a conversation about it. Please do, because again, one of my biggest goals for this podcast is to help people evolve into being better versions of themselves. And so, if you can't be honest with yourself about some things that you need to work on, then how does that process even start? So my hope is that I do, kind of trigger some things in people. Either you see some things in your loved ones or yourself that, okay, maybe I need to have some deeper conversations about. And that's what I'm here for.
And the first step I would say is, if you haven't learned anything, don't use the word so loosely. Just don't throw it around. It
Yeah.
has more power. Well, all words have power. They only have the power that we put behind them. But just, I just think there should be something that just shouldn't be thrown around so loosely, because, after having this conversation, it's obviously and clear that it's not something that we, of people that don't have I could say, the adequate, um, understanding of the word to just be using. And we have a tendency to do that a lot, and that's, I guess, it's no different saying, "Oh, I think he or she bipolar or something." I'm sure that probably rubs you the wrong way too, right? So, and we have a tendency to say those kind of things and don't really realize, the power that they hold. So, the first thing that I've learned and that I'm gonna take from this conversation is just not to use it about loosely, which once again I don't anyway, but it's definitely something that would be on the conscience for sure moving forward when I hear
And
other people say it.
and if I really could impart anything, is that, emotional and mental abuse is real. Most of us in my field would say that it's actually worse than physical abuse. And the reason that is because, you know, if you slap me, right, in a couple of minutes, maybe, the sting will go away, or maybe tomorrow, it won't hurt as bad. But when someone is being emotionally or mentally abused, those words that are being said to and about them a lot of times live rent free in their brain, right? And because we don't have a way to get inside somebody's brain and fix it, right? Like, I can fix a broken leg, I can, you can stitch up a cut, but I can't get inside somebody's brain and make them stop hearing or thinking about things that have been said about them. And so that's why a lot of us would say that emotional and mental abuse is actually way more damaging. And the thing about it is, once you can get inside somebody's head, you could do anything. Like, the brain is the most powerful thing on your body. So once I have captivated your brain, now I can do anything to you. So I just want people to be way, more cognizant of what they say, how they say, and why they say it, right? Because again, we grew up, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I think that's one of the biggest lies we were ever told growing up. Words do hurt, whether people want to admit it or not. And it doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't make you soft. Words do hurt. And so if you guys don't remember anything else I say, that's real. So I think that will be a great stopping point for this topic.
The narcissist.
The narcissist. I know you guys feel like it's clear as mud. I get it. I get it. I get it. Again, just remember, behaviors that make you feel different than who you normally know yourself to be. Not all behaviors are okay or excusable just because somebody's been doing it for a while, or just because a lot of people do it, right? And it's not your job to diagnose, it's mine. So if you have any questions, then find someone who you trust that's in a licensed professional position. And a lot of us, we consult all the time. Honestly, if I charge people for every time they call me asking a question like that, I probably buy my son a car at this point. But most times we don't charge for a quick minute consultation. But yeah, you guys feel free to hit me up on social media if you have any questions. But I hope that this was somewhat helpful. And stop listening to those social media life coaches. They're gonna take y'all down rabbit holes that you ain't gonna be able to get out of. Most of them have not been trained at all. And so if they're talking to you, they're literally talking to you purely from their own life, which is not all encompassing of people's behavior.
It might not be that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, y'all latch on to something that sounds right. It ain't even got to be right. He sound like he know what he's talking about. Stop doing that, please. Please stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, Doc. Like I said, I'm more in a standpoint of listening, because this is really not much. Like I say, it's not really much I can say on it, because honestly, I'm just not qualified to be using and throwing that term around. I could just only really just let you know, basically what you just said is like what I thought what a narcissist was, and from how it's been thrown around. So yeah, I can't do nothing but really listen. It's hard for me to give an opinion on it, because I don't think I'm actually qualified enough to really speak on it.
Just know that only 1% of the population would actually truly meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder.
And that's crazy.
So it's very
That's
rare, and
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
statistics that can't be argued. I'm giving you guys hardcore facts. You can look it up. 1% of the population actually meet the
That's
criteria,
crazy.
and actually, if you look it up, go to the DSM-5. Right, that's our diagnostic guide. It'll tell you that it's really rare. It's really not as common as most people want
I
to
guarantee you, everybody swear they go to work with at least or work with one narcissist. At least. You know what I'm saying? And you
Right.
talking about 1%, man?
Listen,
That'll
that's
blow
like
people's mind.
literally people, right? So it's like if you line 10 people up, 6 of them are narcissists, according to today's society.
Right.
When the truth is, 1 out of every 100.
Right.
Like that's a huge difference, man.
So that's why that's why, a person like me, that's why I had the standpoint of what I was saying earlier, because that's why I was asking for example, because a lot of the symptoms, I'm saying, like, everybody has those symptoms at one point in time. I was not trying to dismiss anything.
Right.
I was just trying to differentiate what really sets, one characteristic apart from another, or whatever it may be. But we all carry a lot of those characteristics,
Absolutely.
and it's more about the behaviors that we do consistently, and the reason. It's almost like more about the reason on why we exhibit those behaviors. It's what makes you a narcissist.
It's all of that, right? It's kind of like, what is the objective? It's how pervasive is it, meaning like how often is this going on, how intense is it, like how deep does it go, how long does it last? It's so much more than that, right?
Yeah,
it's just like people with depression. Like, all of us have been sad. Does that mean we're all depressed? You know what I'm saying? Like, right. all of us have been irritable at some point. All of us have had issues sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, eating too much, not eating enough. But are we all walking around saying we have major depressive disorder? No,
right.
We're not. And so this is no different than that. So just because somebody has 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 symptoms, that doesn't make them a narcissist.
I got a much better understanding already. That's what I'm saying. Like, once again, I never use it, but I probably would never use it. But now when I hear people use it, I can, it just would trigger me differently,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And things like that. And maybe I can almost somewhere, maybe depending on who it is and what's the setting, maybe let them know that, hey, man, he or she, y'all far off on what a narcissist is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might
like,
just
want to
rethink
that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Honestly, like, if I'm dealing with some clients or something.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
And that's something they want to bring up. I could just kind of, give a little bit more in-depth.
Oh yes.
Conversation
definitely.
on what the word is and what it means. You know what I'm saying?
That's perfect.
Like that with sports talk all the time.
I can imagine.
And it's just like, man, y'all have no idea.
Just
reading the newspaper. Yeah, but yeah.
I'm like that with Coach Prime. Because there's a lot of folks that, say a lot of stuff. They don't have no idea what they talking about.
We ain't even got enough time on camera for that.
All right, guys. Well, that's me signing out. Thank you all for rocking with us tonight and, tuning back in and listening to us again. I know I do feel like I may have not been as, concrete as maybe some of you guys would have wanted me to. But bear with me. We have 2 more.
Stand on business.
We have 2 more episodes, and I may revisit something if time permits. And if there's anything that you want me to clarify more of, you can always reach out to me personally.
Yeah, man. I say this, man. I always meant to say it in the beginning, but I always forget. But man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button so you can get notified. With that being said, man, I enjoyed it always. I think we're like on our 5th episode, possibly. It's always informative for me. So, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better. I really think Doc used me as a guinea pig on the slide. I really think she is. But no, I appreciate her having me on. And also, man, just as a quick plug, check out my channel, Just My Damn Opinion, on Wednesday nights at 9:30. And once again, appreciate you having me on again, Doc.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that.